Alrighty, so today we are going to finish the review for match week number 8, and let's jump straight in by talking about the first game, which is the Colorado Rapids versus San Diego FC. And I always like when there's a lot of goals that happen in a game because, as I said, this week, for the most part, most of these games were relatively low score. In fact, we had 3 games this week that ended in a nil-nil draw. I think that's the most we have had so far in this early season. But yeah, in this game between Colorado and San Diego, I think this is really the first time where San Diego really looked wobbly at the back. And I'm not quite sure, is that due to the fact that we know the Rapids are very good going for on the attacking end, or maybe the fact that the altitude definitely affected the San Diego team going forward. Now, in the first half, Dos Santos would deny Navarro after a Route 1 ball from Colorado before Dos Santos denied Bassett from close range. Awazian would then head it wide from close. The Rapids, straight off the bat, were putting wave after wave pressure to San Diego and trying to get the early lead. Yappy would then miss wide from long range before Larraz would puts it high from long range. And up to this point, it was pretty much all Colorado. I mean, the shots total, I think it was like 5-0 in favor of the Rapids. And again, this is the first time that San Diego was playing in altitude, and it definitely felt like early on they definitely not didn't get used to it. Valicari then puts it wide as that was San Diego's first shot, and it was a big chance too for Valicari as well as he found himself in some good space. Navarro then had a shot that was clear off the line, but somehow it fell right back to Bassett, and then somehow, in some way, Dos Santos was in the right spot to deny him there. I mean, again, Colorado was just all over San Diego. I don't know how in the world that did not go into the back of the net. They were pushing hard to try to get the opening goal, and eventually the pressure buckled. As in the 34th minute, a penalty was given to the Rapids as Dos Santos brought down Yappy in the box there. And this actually was just moments after I wrote that the Rapids were pushing hard to try to get the opening goal. So here comes George Mihailovic, a chance to finally get that opening goal. And he usually does not miss from the spot. He doesn't here, though. Dos Santos came very close of saving it. And I got to say, this was definitely not the one of the best penalty that Georgi Mihailovic take. But yeah, this is one that he's very fortunate that Dos Santos, he did get a hand to it. I think he kind of went under him. That's always one that if you're a goalkeeper, you're going to want to have back, and is going to be very frustrated because again, anytime when the ball go under you and get a hand to it, you would assume you probably should have saved that. But yeah, that gives the Rapids a well-deserved 1-0 lead, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. In the second half, Lozano would miss wide from long range, but then in the 50th minute, San Diego ties the game up as Luca Del Torre scored a golazo from Lozano to tie the game up at one apiece. The equalizer did not stay long because just 3 minutes later, the Rapids takes the lead again as Darren Yappy scored from Awazium to make it 2-1 in favor of the Rapids. Dwyer did look to answer, but he was absolutely robbed by stepping from point blank range. And this is kind of where when I think San Diego started to get things going when it comes to attack, and it looks a little bit like the San Diego that we've seen before. Like in the first half, that was probably the worst half that San Diego have played throughout this season. But in the 57 minutes, Stefan would deny Diab from long range, and again, it was just kind of feel like it's back and forth we go with the momentum. All of a sudden swing right to San Diego. They were pressing to tie this game up, but instead, in the 60th minute, on the other end, Navarro would score from Bassett to make it 3-1 in favor of the Rapids. So that's got to be a backbreaker for San Diego. It looked like the momentum was with them, but then all of a sudden, the Rapids find themselves the third goal. Dreyer did look to answer, but he puts it high despite just having an absolute sitter. Yeah, for Anders Dreyer, this was a rough game for him when it comes to having chances to score. I mean, he absolutely should have scored at least a couple of goals, and knowing the quality that Anders Dreyer can bring to the San Diego team, he knows he should have done better in terms of some of the chances that you have. And you also kind of had a sense that you wonder if they actually did put away those chances, maybe the game would have been a whole lot different because of these golden opportunity that San Diego missed. Cabral would then puts it wide from close in the 81st minute before Larraz puts it over from long range. Colorado was trying to wrap this one up, trying to get that fourth goal, but instead San Diego pull within one as Thomas Angel would score his first career MLS goal from Dwyer to make it 3-2 in favor of the Rapids. So if Dwyer can't score goals, might as well be the playmaker as he is asked to do. Ku DiPietro then hits it right to Dos Santos in the first minute of stoppage time, and despite a little bit late pressure from San Diego, Colorado holds on. They win 3-2 in this one, handing San Diego their second loss this season. The shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 9 that San Diego has. 9 shots on goal compared to 4 that San Diego has. 4 shots off target for 7 that the Rapids had. 6 shots as well, 1 that San Diego has. And possession-wise, 40% possession compared to 60% possession that San Diego has, because obviously we know that for San Diego, there's not a game where they're below 60% percentage. You know something different happen in the game, unless of course if they do play against a heavy possession team like Columbus, and even then they outpossess Columbus in that game as well. But yeah, overall, what was it was a rough night for San Diego, especially on the defensive part. Again, one thing I will say about San Diego is that even in these losses that they suffer, some of these losses that they suffer, if they would have put away some of their chances that they got, the game could have been a lot different, similar to what we saw in the Austin loss that they had. If they would have put away some of their chances against Los Verdes, they probably would have got something out of the game. But take nothing away from the Rapids, was another impressive performance this season. They have played relatively well at home, which was not a big surprise. Playing on the road against Colorado, especially when the Rapids are good, is a very tough team to beat, especially with that altitude being a huge factor. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is LAFC versus San Diego FC. So once again, this was another type of game where, I've talked about many times before, whenever the Quakes play against LAFC, they always tends to get LAFC some tough time. And this was another one of those games where, I thought the Quakes play relatively well, definitely gave LAFC some trouble. But one of the frustrating thing about the Quakes this season is that despite the fact that they're playing well on the road, and especially winning the expectancy goal battle once again, they just have not been great when it comes to their finishing. I mean, besides that last game against DC where they pretty much scored 6 goals, and that was a game that, as I said, it was a long time coming with the way that the chances that they were created, that they were going to score ton of goals. And in this game, they kind of gone back to their old way where they weren't being clinical in terms of the finishing, and because they're not clinical in terms of their finishing, that means, yeah, the defense is going to let them down. And it also doesn't help the fact that there is a huge concern for the Quakes coming out of this game, not just for the loss, but what's going to be the health of Daniel. That could be a huge blow to this team, especially the guy that replaced him. Yeah, he was not very good whatsoever. In the first half, Chicho Arango with the first shot of the game, but he missed wide there in the second minute before Bwanga with LAFC for a shot, but he just missed an absolute sitter. Again, that shot is just kind of sums up Bwanga season up to that point. He just simply cannot buy a goal in the league play. He is just absolutely snake bin in league play. Lloris would then deny Joseph Martinez from close. It was a lively start to this game. Both of these teams were getting some good chances to look for the lead, but then in the 20th minute, this is where the concern for the Quakes, as Daniel had to be subbed out with a head injury. Kind of took a knock on after Giroux accidentally clipped his head there. So Edwards Jr. replaced him as a resort. But in the 22nd minute, Lloris would deny Espinoza in the near post before Ordaz will cross it wide from long range. On the other end, Espinoza missed wide from close range. The shots were 5 apiece up to this point, and unsurprisingly, very even game. Both of these teams had some good chances to get the opening goal, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Lloris would deny Arango from close range. The Quakes were definitely getting off to a good start, but again, can they capitalize these chances? I know Hugo Lloris was having a good game up to this point, but you just kind of had a sense that they have to capitalize eventually some of these chances, because if they don't, LAFC is going to take advantage of it. And they did in the 65th minute. Sergei Palencia scored a banger of a goal to make it 1-0 in favor of LAFC, though you got to question the Quakes defense on that second phase of play. No closing down whatsoever, just kind of ball watches that one goes in, but nevertheless, take nothing away in terms of the great strike that Palencia has. And just like that, it was 1-0 in favor of LAFC. That goal looked like it was short-lived in the 73rd minute as Chicho puts it into the back net. Problem was, he was in an offside position, and he was not offside by much. Very, very close, but nevertheless, it was offside. Martinez then missed wide from close range before Pellegrino just puts it over on the back foot. I thought it was a good response for the Quakes. Again, this is the thing that I've noticed with Bruce Arena team when they go down 1-0, even facing adversity. This team does not quit. This team will find a way to continue to push on. And I say that even I remember what happened a couple of games ago when they got absolutely blown out of the door by Charlotte. That was a game that if you guys remember, yes, they lost 4-1 in that game. But when you look at the stats number, they put a lot of chances in that game, and that game could have been a whole lot different if they would have took advantage of their chances. And if it wasn't for Kalina showing why he was the goalkeeper of the year last season, and here we go again, just a lot of chances that the Quakes were having, but just unable to bury it because Lloris was up for it in this game. And in the 86th minute, this was an absolute backbreaker as Bawanga would finally score his first goal of the season in league play for Tillman to make it 2-0 in favor of LAFC. Not only the drought was over for Bawanga, but he can thank Earl Edwards Jr. for this. Again, I gotta say this is where you just really hope that Daniel injury is not too seriously. I mean, a concussion might take a couple of weeks, and you want to take all kinds of precaution. But yeah, the Edward Jr. is clearly not it for this Quakes team, and I just have fear of what we saw a couple of years ago. Where remember how Daniel went down, and I know he's very injury prone during his time with the Quakes, but as soon as Daniel went down, yeah, there goes the team as well, especially with how bad this defense is. And here again, not a great moment for Edward Jr. He just gave the ball right to Tillman to start the attack on the other way, and just like that, LAFC were up 2-0. Costa would then puts it high from long range in the third minute, but in the 5th minute stoppage time, the Quakes at least got one back as Christian F. Spinoza would score for Martinez to make it 2-1 in favor of LAFC, but it was too little too late for the Quakes, as in the end, LAFC gets the win in this one. That's kind of what they've been doing, at least in terms of this mediocre start to the season. They've been winning games at home. Now they just need to win some of these games on the road, which has been a big challenge for this LAFC team this season. Shots in this game, the Quakes actually outshot LAFC 17 shots for the 12 that LAFC had. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 7 shots off target for the 3 that LAFC had, 4 shots that was blocked for the 6 that the Quakes had, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to the 49% possession the Quakes has in this game. And as much as I am kind of frustrated the fact that in some of these games where the Quakes have been the better team against their opposition, but still come on the losing end, at least it's a lot more improvement compared to what we saw last game. Or not last game, I'm sorry, but last season that is, where it's game in and game out, where they're just getting absolutely thumped by their opposition. Eventually, I think the result is going to come for this team. Eventually, those chances that they're created is going to come in. But my biggest concern, I think, with this Quakes team, again, it's got to be the health of Daniel. He needs to be back healthy as soon as possible, and if not, Quakes might be looking in the market for a new secondary goalkeeper because again, Earl Edwards Jr. I think Revs fans kind of warn Quakes fan that he's definitely not good whatsoever, even for backup quality, and we kind of saw it in this game in full display. And I would not be surprised if the Quakes might be looking for a backup goalkeeper, especially if Daniel is going to be out for a bit. But now moving on in terms of the next match is the Galaxy and the Houston Dynamo. So the Galaxy, they're continuing to be winless this season. Now 8 games into the season, still have not got a win. And in this game, it kind of didn't help the fact that they got themselves a red card early in this uphill battle throughout this game. Now, in the first half, Ponce had a free kick that was deflected off the wall, as that was the game's first shot. Not much really happened, at least early in this game. That all changed in the 14th minute when Ezekiel Ponce would score from Bassi and Kowacic to make it 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy. Ramirez did look to respond, but he was denied by Gillingham. The Galaxy definitely started to woke up after, once again, not starting on time in this game. They were looking to try to get the equalizer, and their chance of getting the equalizer definitely take a massive hit. As in the 28th minute, Zonka would get a straight red here for denial of goal score opportunity here. So the Galaxy were down to 10 men, and most importantly, down a man light in the defensive area. Bassi looked to take advantage immediately from the free kick, but he puts it into the side netting. We then go for a period where not much really happened. Again, the Dynamo, they haven't really done a good job in terms of capitalizing being a man up. And a big surprise about this, they have had their issue this season on the attack in, and yeah, they weren't really creating too much chances despite the fact that they have the numerical advantage. But we do head to halftime with the Dynamo leading 1-0. In the second half, McCarthy would deny Ponce from close before Sevchenko would head it right to McCarthy. The Dynamo definitely started to create a couple more chances, a little bit more sustained pressure on the Galaxy to try to go up by 2, but instead the Galaxy would tie the game up. And it's thanks to Diego Goodness with a wonderful free kick here. He's not known to score from free kick, but he put an absolute banger of a free kick here in the 57th minute. Got the technique completely right to tie the game up at one apiece. Though Ponce did look to respond, but he was denied by the post on the header before Peck looked to score another free kick goal himself, but this time it didn't work out. It goes wide. Set pieces has been a problem, at least for the Dynamo, but it's been kind of the friend for the Galaxy. And why not? I mean, when you're down to 10 man, you need to take advantage of your set pieces because that's really the only time where you could potentially have the chances to create when you're down a man. Sevchenko then missed wide from close in the 85th minute before Ponce would puts it high from close as the Dynamo were pushing late to try to get the lead back, but it was not to be. As in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw in this one. Shots in this one, 13 shots for the 6 that the Galaxy had, 2 shots on goal for the 3 that the Dynamo has, 4 shots off target for the 2 that the Galaxy had, 2 shots on its block for the 3 that the Dynamo has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that the Galaxy has in this game. And this kind of feel like it's one of those games where I don't think either of these teams is going to be happy with this result. I mean, for the Galaxy, the winless run can continue. I mean, anytime when you start the season 8 games without a win, not a lot of team is able to make the playoffs. I mean, I know Sporting KC did it when they went 10 games without a win, and obviously, you would assume maybe the some of the players that are back from injuries is going to be back on this team, but it just gets to the point where when they do get healthy and get back to full strength, it might be a little bit too late if they want to make a run for it. I mean, they eventually got to have to win one of these games. And again, I know they will use the injury excuse and also the cap issue as an excuse, but every team is basically dealing with the same thing as well. They need to eventually get the Schnei going, and for the Dynamo, they won't be happy because when you're up a man for almost 2/3 of the game, you're supposed to win, especially when you're leading up to that point. So very frustrating for Ben Olsen's side not to capitalize on that opportunity. Now, moving on into the Sunday action, and we start off with the first game on Sunday, or actually the second game on Sunday, that is. I actually switched the order by accident. I should have talked about the Sporting KC versus the Timbers game because that was the first game on Sunday. But instead, let's talk about the second game of the Sunday action in front of a record-selling crowd at Soldier Field between the Chicago Fire and Inter Miami. And the good news for that crowd at Soldier Field is that they finally get to see Messi and friends play. I mean, that's kind of the thing that unfortunately Chicago fans haven't been able to see when they play against Inter Miami, at least in the last two seasons that is. But they finally got a chance to do so, but unfortunately they weren't able to see their their players that they really want to see score a goal. And I say that because let's be honest, even though there was 60,000 inside the stadium, I would say pretty much majority of the fans there are just there to see Messi score. You can even hear it in the crowd every time when Miami had the chance. You can hear the roar and the anticipation, especially whenever Messi got to it, and you can hear the groan whenever Brady makes that save there. I mean, that's kind of what we see with Messi mania really took over in this league, especially on the road. Now, in the fourth minute, Brady would deny Messi from long range for full stretch. That came off of a bad turnover from the Fire as they really got away with that one there. Yeah, and it's not very often when you give the ball away there that you're not going to be punished. And what a save that was from Chris Brady as well. I mean, that was perfectly placed by Messi, but full stretch. Brady was able to rob him on that play. Gutierrez then puts it high from long range before he puts it wide again from long range in the 12th minute. The shots were 4-1 for the Fire. And really, the Fire, I thought they did a good job in terms of limiting the chance that Inter Miami has really throughout this entire game as well. Inter Miami didn't have a lot of chances in this one. And the Fire themselves had some good chances of their own. Starting in the 26th minute when Ustari denied Gutierrez from close. Before in the 33rd minute, Zincanago would ring off the post in the near post there as the Fire again continue to create the sustained pressure, pushing hard to try to get the opening goal. But before that, Suarez was in on goal here in the first minute stoppage time, and you usually do not see this with Luis Suarez missing a chance as he was in on goal, but this time he puts this one over, and we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Zincanago would hit one that actually somehow was caught by Ustari. I mean, Zikanagar actually put a lot of power into that one, but somehow, in some way, Ustari, I have no idea how he was able to catch that. On the other end, Brady would deny Segovia from close. There was a couple of half chances, or at least some good chances, I would say, early for both of these teams trying to get the opening goal. The post would then deny Messi on the free kick in the 64th minute before Messi had a shot that was deflected away after just another bad turnover from the Fire. I mean, the Fire were really playing with a lot of fire in terms of these bad turnover. Get what I said in terms of that. Anyway, Haile Selassie would then hits one right to Ustari. Again, this game just kind of feels like it's up for grabs, but who can grab that opening goal? Well, Messi tried to do so, but he puts it over on the free kick in the 78th minute before the post would deny Messi on the free kick again in the 85th minute. Suarez did put the ball into the back of net. Problem was he was in an offside position, so that goal, of course, was chopped off before Ustari was able to deny Bomba, but it fell right into the path of Haile Selassie, who had an empty net to shoot, and he just couldn't put that one on target. I mean, that moment just kind of sums up the game for both of these teams. Neither of these teams were being very good in terms so they're finishing. Bamba that himself though was in on goal again in the 89th minute, but this time he once again was denied by Ustari. Gotta say, Ustari has come up with some really big save for this Inter Miami team, showing why he is the number one, and he just simply handily took that number one spot away from Calendar because of the great performance that he have done and took the advantage of the chances that he's been given. In the 90th minute, Alande would put it wide on another yeah, he puts it wide on another bad turnover from the Fire, but in the end it ends in a scoreless draw in this game despite there was chances for both teams. The shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 9 that Miami has, 3 shots on goal compared to 7 that the Fire has. Did I say that Miami didn't have a lot of chances? I take that back. They actually did have some fair amount of chances. 2 shots off target compared to 3 that Miami has. 2 shots that was blocked for the 5 that the Fire has, and possession-wise, almost dead even, 50% with Miami just slightly having more of the possession. 51% possession compared to the 49% possession that Chicago has in this game. So yeah, again, this is just feel like it's one of those games where both of these teams just weren't being clinical enough in terms of scoring the goal, couldn't find the opening goal. But hey, at least a sold out crowd, a record crowd, got their wish of seeing Messi and friends. And at least if you're the Chicago Fire, you're hoping maybe some of those casual fans will also maybe convert by supporting the team that is based in the Chicago area. Again, I understand that whenever Messi and friends come to town, it's gonna definitely sold out a lot of crowd. But I really hope that eventually some of those fans will also attend their hometown club again, because the Fire, they themselves put up a pretty good show in this one, and this is not the first time we've seen this happen for this team. When it comes to playing in big crowd, we've seen it before, especially in their first meeting when they play against Miami in front of a sold out crowd at Soldier Field. They put up a 4 spot on Miami in that first ever match with Messi and friends, or without Messi and friends, because Messi decided not to show up in that game, and unfortunately the Fire wasn't able to replicate in this game as well. But with that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 2 games to finish up the review for match week number 8. So moving on into the first Sunday game that happened yesterday is Sporting KC versus the Portland Timbers, and I just kind of had a feeling this was going to be a high-scoring affair. I mean, when you have a game between these two teams throughout this season, where for the most part the attack has been pretty good for both of these teams, but when it comes to the defensive part, yeah, it's a lot left a lot to desire, and at least in the first half it kind of shows that. But in the second half, the Timbers kind of pull away, and they never really look back after that. Now, in the first half, Pandemis would deny Showery, as that was the game's first shot, and it came off of a bad turnover from the Timbers as well. But in the 9th minute, on the first shot of the game for the Timbers, it's in the back of the net, as Ajala would score from DeCosta to make it 1-0 in favor of the Timbers. That lead would last only 6 minutes, because in the 15th minute, Suleimanov would score to tie the game up at 1 apiece. It was just one of those dangerous crosses put into the box where no one really touches, because that's a nightmare situation if you're a defender, because when those ball put in a perfect spot where if you took a touch, that's an own goal potentially, and because no one took the touch, it just goes all the way through, and yeah, just like that, the game was tied up at 1 apiece. There was a shout for a penalty for SKC not given not long after before Mascara looked to respond for the Timbers, but he missed that one high. Very even start to this game as both of these teams were having some great moments in this game, and in the 25th minute, the Timbers would restore their lead as Kevin Kelsey would score for Majella to make it 2-1 in favor of the Timbers. Originally the goal was given to David Ajala, but it did take a deflection there from Kelsey. I don't know if Kevin Kelsey knew a lot about that deflection, but nevertheless, he was given the credit because it last touch off of him. But in the 27th minute, post game would deny DaCosta from close range. Virtually, there's been no defending here up to this point, at least from an SKC perspective. It was just way too easy when it comes to getting themselves cut open on the transition by the Portland Timbers. Though on the other end, Pantemis would deny Showery from close, and then they go to VAR on that same sequence because it looked like Anthony brought down Sulamanov in the box, and VAR says yes. So they go to the spot here. Joveljic had a chance to tie the game up, and he does exactly that with the Panenka. Ties the game up at 2 apiece, and we might be having a repeat, at least what we saw last year. Remember, last year, this game ended 3-3 at Trojan Mercy Park, and it was a game that I'm pretty sure Sporting KC fans would not want to remember because they blew a 3-0 lead in that game. The Timbers came back from 3-0 down and kind of had a very similar type of game what we saw with Minnesota playing against Sporting KC a couple of weeks ago, and just an absolute meltdown in SKC Park, giving up 3 goals in a span of 11 minutes. But in the 34th minute, Anthony had a shot that's deflected and almost looped over the head of Postgame as well. Before on the other end, Davis would put it over from long range. Pentemis then denied Showery in the near post. The shots were 5 apiece up to this point, which that feels low considering it was kind of end to end in terms of how things were going. Fernandez would then put it wide on the header. I thought, Sporting looked like they were trying to take the lead before we get to halftime, but we do head to halftime with the score tied up at 2 apiece. And them not taking the lead before halftime, that's going to come back to haunt Sporting KC because in the second half, this is when the Timbers really start taking over. DaCosta would puts it over in the 47th minute. That once again was coming off another bad turnover from Sporting KC, but just 2 minutes later, they turn the ball over again, and when you do it twice, yeah, you're gonna eventually gonna get punished, and that's exactly what happened. As Kevin Kelsey would score his second goal of the game from Anthony to give the Timbers the lead for the third time. Again, comes off a bad turnover from SKC, and this time they were punished. And then just a couple of minutes later, they would make it 4-2 as Janssen Miller would unfortunately score an own goal there. And yeah, that was just optional set piece defending from Sporting KC. I mean, that defense pretty much was a no-show in this game for Sporting KC in this one. Not the first time we said about Sporting KC this season of how bad defensively they have been throughout the season. Post game then denied DaCosta from close. SKC seems like they waved the white flag up to this point. It was all Timbers in the second half. They were pushing to try to get more. Though Pentemis denied Davis from close before Joveljic would hit it right to Pentemis as Sporting finally started to get themselves back in to this game after a disastrous start to the second half, but maybe part of that is because the Timbers might have started to put the foot off the gas, thinking 4-2 might be enough to get the win. Pantemis then denied Jovic from close, but then the second minute of stoppage time, a penalty was given to Sporting KC again, and this time it's Bravo, the one that brings down a Frifa in the box. So Jovic had a chance to score again from the spot. This time Pantama says no. He denied him from the spot there and any chance of maybe a little bit of a grandstand finish in stoppage time. As in the end, the Timbers win 4-2 in this game. Highly entertaining action. Shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 9 that Sporting KC had. 6 shots on goal for the 8 that the Timbers had. 3 shots off target for the 1 that Sporting KC had. 1 shot that was blocked for the 2 that the Timbers had. And possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. So for the Timbers, their strong start to the season, at least in the last couple of games, can continue. Again, this is kind of the thing with Phil Neville side. When things are going well for you, they're gonna go on a bit of a unbeaten run. Now let's see how long this unbeaten run lasts, because when things does not go well for Phil Neville's side, that's when the roller coaster basically stops. But for Sporting KC, yeah, it's kind of back to the drawing board for them again. That head coach moves only last them for one game, and this is just kind of a reminder that yeah, this team still have a lot of work to do, especially on the defensive end this season. It's been pretty atrocious of how bad their defense has throughout this season. Now, moving on into the last game on this board. is St. Louis versus Columbus. So I will say about St. Louis, they definitely look much better on the attack in this game. The problem was they weren't able to capitalize on some of the chances that they had. Though I will say that they are. I wouldn't blame St. Louis fans. Will be feeling a little bit hard done in this game because we had a very controversial call in this game in the second half. Now in the first half, the first shot of the game did see Lund deny Rossi in the front post, as I thought the Crew were the better team early on. They looked to try to get the opening goal early, but instead, as I said, that Joe Klaus would score to make it 1-0 in favor of St. Louis, and not only the drought was over for St. Louis. St. Louis have not scored a goal in over 300 plus minutes. But most importantly, the drought is over for Joao Klaus. It's hard to believe that he has not scored a goal for the St. Louis side since May 11 of last year. That has finally come to an end, and it kind of came against the run of play because up to this point, Columbus was the better their team. That was really one of the first real attack that St. Louis had. So yeah, that's definitely affected. Maybe that will get things going for the St. Louis attack. Arston did look to respond, but he missed wide in the 11th minute before Koischer was in on goal there, but he missed wide the target. Again, if this was last season, Cedric Toischer probably would have buried that one. The confidence level of this St. Louis attack is still not there, and that's even after they finally broke the ice in terms of them not scoring a goal in what seems like forever. Klaus would then hits it right to Schulte in the 17th minute, and again the shackle seems like it finally came off for this St. Louis attack. They finally started to create chances that they've been missing at least in the last couple of games, and they were pushing trying to get that second goal. Klaus would then heads it wide from close in the 34th minute before Lund would deny Moreira from close. But then the first minute of stoppage time, Ben Lund couldn't do anything about this Moreira shot. I mean, it was an absolute laser of a shot on the volley by Steven Moreira. He scored from Arvston and Rossi to tie the game up at one apiece. Though Jackson did look to try to get the lead before halftime, but he missed one in the fourth minute stoppage time. Momentum was all with St. Louis up to this point. They were pressing hard to get the momentum was with Columbus. I'm sorry. They were trying to press to try to get the lead before halftime, and you can really sense that St. Louis need halftime because the back line it looked like it was all over the place late in the first half. But we do get to halftime with the score tied up at one apiece, and in the second half, unfortunately for St. Louis, things does not get any better because Columbus would take the lead for the first time as Diego Rossi would score from Chambeau's to make it 2-1 in favor of Columbus. Hardo did try to respond, but Schulte was able to tip that cross onto the post. It was actually a cross rather than the shot that is. And we had the controversy. So in the 67th minute, Joe Klaus looked like he scored his second goal of the game, but the goal was disallowed for offside. Now, I looked at it many times, and I gotta say, it definitely looked like Joe Klaus was in an onside position. I mean, the only thing I can say maybe that was not called onside is that because the angle wasn't exactly straight. Maybe that's exactly that they of course called it offside. But even with the angle not being very well, it definitely looked like Joe Klaus was online with the defense, and especially with the line that is that used as a judgment as well because it looks like the last defender and Joe Klaus was almost in the same line. If I can say that maybe Joao Klaus was leaning a little bit, maybe that of course is offside, and I think that's kind of what VAR thought it is. But again, I can understand why St. Louis fans are absolutely upset about this. And again, for a team that has not got a lot of luck this season, you just kind of had a sense that they this feels like it's almost like twisting the knife in terms of the bad luck that they've been getting throughout the season, especially on the attacking end. So yeah, the goal of course was chopped off, but that doesn't mean that St. Louis was going to give up. They were pushing to try to get the equalizer. It started with Betcher miss wide from close after just a brutal turnover from Columbus, and then Schulte would deny Klaus from close range. Columbus was definitely hanging on late in this game. I mean, St. Louis was putting all sorts of pressure to try to get the equalizer. Schulte would then deny Betcher from close in the 88th minute, but that was the last chance that St. Louis would have in this game, as in the end, Columbus, they do hold on to this one. It's not very often you see a Wilfred Nancy side below leads. They're a team that is very good when it comes to closing out games, and they did it again in this one with the wins to stay unbeaten. Shots in this one, 13 shots with the 12 that St. Louis had, and most importantly, also extend the the lead at the top of the Eastern Conference because Miami dropped points this week. They were able to get the win, so I think now the lead is up to 3 points at least at the top of the East. Five shots on goal for the six that St. Louis had. Both teams had three shots off target. One shot that was blocked for the five that Columbus had. And possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that St. Louis has this game. And if there's one positive you can say about St. Louis, even with this loss, the attack looked like finally started to get going. That is something that has really just kind of drive a lot of St. Louis fan mad, and especially toward their new head coach Olaf Melberg. The fact that they've been just so flat on the attack in this entire season so far, not really getting anything going. So the fact that they finally started to get things going and are not afraid to try to push forward to create the chances, that's improvement. That is being seen. Now, obviously, the next thing they need to do is put away the chances, which it will come when you, of course, finally start to continue to put some chances. Eventually, it's gonna go your way. But the fact that they actually created chances, I think that's maybe consider a win for St. Louis, because at the end of the day, again, this is the team that is still a very big work in progress with this team, and until when they're gonna get their confidence back, which you can clearly see, it feels like it's been lost compared to what we saw in the second half of last season. This is going to be the kind of the thing that they're going to have to do, and especially facing against such a good team like Columbus, that just kind of shows you why they're number one in the Eastern Conference, and why Wilfred Nancy, he's at it again. Again, they might not have Kucher Hernandez in this one. By the way, Daniel Gastek did play for the first time in this game. He didn't really had too much to do for this game, making his debut, and wasn't there wasn't really too much note on him. But there's no doubt that even though Columbus lost some quality on this team, it just feels like this team has never skipped a beat, because again, Wilfred Nancy, he's a magician. He's gonna get the best out of any player, like there's no tomorrow, and we're seeing it again. And a great example of it, look at Christian Ramirez in terms of his time with the Galaxy compared to when he was with Columbus. While Christian Ramirez was doing so well with Columbus, now you saw what he's doing with the Galaxy, of how he's been struggling to trying to put the ball in the back of net, because he's not playing the same incredible system that time and time again has been proven that Nancy ball clearly works in this league, and Nancy ball is going to continue to dominate this league until teams are going to try to figure an alternative way to break it down. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review of all six of these games. To finish off the review for match week number 8, we're gonna have another full slate of action this weekend as well. Though this week we don't actually have any Concacaf Champions Cup action. I think that's gonna be next week. But soon we're gonna start seeing U.S. Open Cup action. I think the third round is gonna be this week, and before you know it, we're gonna see the fourth round with some MLS team is gonna be involved in that as well. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.